Hi everybody, this is Oksana and today we're going to wrap a coffin shaped cabochon. I've had some requests for this, but I just didn't have any stones in that shape, so I got this little malachite stone and today we're going to make this pendant here. So if you want to see how I made this, just keep watching. And before we get started, I just want to say real quick that if you're not already subscribed, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel and hitting that notification bell to be notified of new videos, which I post every weekend. All right, so let's get started. So the base wire we're going to use is this square 20 gauge copper wire. I got this spool at realgrande.com. Dead soft copper, and you're going to need 3 pieces. Let's measure them. I got a new measuring tape. I don't like it. So I'm going to have to look for another one. So it's 25 centimeters or 10 inches. And I don't know what I was thinking, but I actually painted my nails. You've probably never seen my nails painted in videos, so we'll see how this lasts throughout the video. But I was painting my daughter's nails and I thought, hey, it's been years since I've painted mine. And then I remembered why. So I'm holding the 3 wires in the middle here, and I'm using some half round wire. This is some 24 gauge half round wire to make the connection. So I'm just grabbing the wire end and wrapping it a few times. And actually, what's important with this guy is the bottom is a little bit small here, so I just want the number of wraps that fit the bottom of my stone. So let me measure this. Oh, I think it's 1 inch. No, it's a little bit bigger than 1 inch. It's like 1 1/4 inches or 30 30 millimeters. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna zoom in here a little bit. So now that I wrapped that little end around to get it started, I'm just gonna trim because it's a little long. And I'm gonna press that down with my regular pliers, like that. And now we can do this wire that's still connected to the spool, but we just have to guide it with one hand as we turn the piece. Otherwise the wire gets twisted. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check how it is compared to my stone. So that looks like the exact size of my stone. So I'm just gonna bend this wire up, trim it so that the little wire ends are on the same side here. I'm gonna push that down. And since this is the exact size of the bottom of my stone, I can go ahead and I can bend the angles into it. So the thing that makes this different from other shapes and other tutorials, it's actually not a huge difference. It's all about bending the wire frame around your stone. All right, so that's pretty good. What I'm gonna do now is just to reinforce those angles a little better. Just gonna kind of press this flatter with my pliers. And let's see. And as long as they're just small little gaps, it's not a problem. We can kind of squish them away and get rid of them. And the important thing is just bending the wires, keeping the wires together, lined up together, which can be hard to do. They don't always want to stay lined up together. If you're having trouble, you can put a little bit of scrap half round wire around to keep the wires together, and then like remove it afterwards, after you've bent. Or you can use a little bit of painter's tape and then remove it afterwards. But you want your wires to just stay nicely lined up with each other. So I'm just bending around my stone. Like this. And now that we've created most of the frame here, we just want our wires up here to meet up. So I'm just putting like a little preliminary bend in them, and then I'm going to go back and kind of fix that up. Let's see. All right, that looks pretty good. Here's my little coffin shaped frame. So this is really the only thing that's different about this shape. Anytime you work with a non-standard shape, it's just all about shaping your frame. I'm just kind of reinforcing these little bends here. Shaping your frame around your stone. And once you've done that, the rest of this is exactly the same as any tutorial. Because if you've seen some of my other tutorials, this is the part where I create the bale and then I use these wires to do different decorations. So you could use any of my other tutorials to get a different look up here, to do your bale like I did in that tutorial, to do the decorations, the swirls or whatever. You can do that in any way you want from any of the other tutorials. But I'll show you, I decided to do kind of a non-swirly look for this one, since it's just kind of like a clean angular shape. I thought that I would do kind of a non-swirly, clean looking design here. So the first thing I'm doing is just wrapping my half round wire around all of these wires. It's 6 wires. It's 3 wires from this side and then 3 from this side, stacked nicely together, which that's a hard part, trying to get the wires all lined up and stacked nicely. Once you do that, you can just connect them all with the half round wire. I like to just bring this wire end, I brought it from back to front, here it is, and if I can find my wire cutters here, I like to just trim that off. So I pulled on it a little bit and I trimmed it, and you can maybe kind of see the little end of it there, but can't see it very well. So I'm gonna reinforce this, and then you can kind of push on that little wire end to hide it away. So what I'm gonna do, I'm actually not gonna do my bale on these frontmost wires like I normally do. I'm going to do something a little different. So I'm going to separate those 2 frontmost wires, and then I'm going to wrap around just the remaining 4 wires for a minute. I'm going to do a few wraps. So that's 3. I'll do 4 wraps. And now I'm going to separate the next 2 set of wires like this. And now I'm going to wrap around this. So I'm also going to wrap around 4 times, just like I did there. And then I'm going to trim the little wire end there, and I'm just going to press that down like this. So we'll finish off the bale in a minute there. So here's what it looks like. This is the front here. This is the back. So this is the front facing us. We're just gonna take our stone and we're gonna lock it in before we do the bale. So pop the stone into the frame. Mine does have like a little indent there that was naturally present in the stone. And let me grab my pliers here. So what we want to do to lock the stone in is just on the back. I'm just going to separate that backmost wire, and I'm going to grab and pull it onto the stone on each side, and that's going to prevent our stone from being able to pop out the back. And then for the front, we're going to do the same thing. Just going to take that frontmost wire, try to create like a little separation there, wedge my wires in there, work them to the bottom, and then do that on the other side as well. So I'm just kind of working them. So I'm just kind of working my pliers here until they get to the bottom, and then I'm putting that bend in there. So you can see there's some gaps. So what we're going to do is we're just going to press down on the wires with our pliers to close up the gaps. Like this. And now our stone is trapped. Check that it's trapped, that you can't push it out the front. If these wires are just kind of on the edge of it, that should trap it good. All right, so now it's time to do the bail. So what I'm going to use is some bail making pliers here to bend my wires into like a rounded shape, but you don't have to have these if you don't own bail making pliers. You can use something small and round, like a pencil might be too big, or a pen, but maybe like a knitting needle or a crochet hook, or maybe you have something around your house that you can think of that would work for this. Because basically what we want to do, I'm going to use this second biggest one. So this is the smallest, the second smallest one, then this is the next smallest. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of getting in here and I'm bending these back two wires. I'm bending them around to create that rounded shape for my bail. And then you can just kind of press down on it a little bit. And what I want to do actually is I want to get the ends, the wire ends. Sometimes it just helps to kind of cut them a little bit shorter. And then it helps for you to get them through here, through that little gap. Like this. So I'm just going to check that. That looks nice lined up. And then the wires here, I'm just going to put one wire on each side here, just wrapping it around. I'm going to press down on them a little bit here from the front so they look nice and even like this. And here on the back, if we just trim them and leave ourselves just a little wire end, then we should be able to tuck them nicely in side of our gap there. Now my coffin shaped stone here is a little bit odd in the sense that it has a really skinny top portion there. The ones that I've seen are a little wider here, so you probably are going to have a bigger gap than I am, so it won't be as much of a struggle to put the wires in here like I'm doing now. So now we're going to do the next set of wires, so go ahead and just kind of stand them up there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bend them down like this, so that leaves us a little bail here to put our necklace through. And then I'm going to bend the other one so it's kind of the same there. I can't remember, I think I did a tutorial that's pretty similar to this. Maybe not. So what I'm going to do now is the same thing. I'm going to tuck these wire ends through this gap, just kind of one at a time there. very little space. Oh, this one just doesn't want to get in there. There we go. So tuck them in. Now I can grab them and just kind of pull on them. And there's quite a bit that needs to get pulled through because I don't want this to be going further back than my normal bale there. So as I pull on them, I'm checking them to see if they are even. I'm also going to press here on the back. I think this one needs to be just a smidge lower. It's hard to tell because these wires are kind of in the way, but I think that's even now. So once you think you have it nice and even, go ahead and push the wires onto the back here. And then we're going to do the same thing. We are going to trim them and we are going to tuck away those wire ends there. Just tuck them into the bale, or the underneath the bale, sorry, the gap underneath the bale. All right, so if you have your little wire ends tucked away there, you can try to bring these together if you don't want to have a gap like this, and we just have our very last set of wires here. So we're just going to bend them to the back like this, and then let's cut them a little shorter so we have an easier time getting them through that gap there. So I'm just gonna kind of bend this a little bit, and I'm just gonna try my best to work it through this gap. All right, so now this is a bit tricky in my case because my gap up there is just so small, but I'm gonna do my best to work the wires that I have from back to front here. All right, so I've had an incident happen and the stone actually cracked from trying to put the wires in that tiny gap. So I've replaced it. I have almost an identical stone. It was part of a pair. And what I'm gonna do is, normally you would tuck these through just like you did with the other wires, just wrap them around and tuck them away. And you'll probably be able to do that because chances are your gap is bigger than mine. I just have a really tiny stone with just a really tiny top there. But I'm a little bit nervous to try and do this again because I don't want to break any more stones. I don't have any more of these. So what I'm gonna do instead is these wires, I'm just gonna have them here on the back because I just have to finish them off and attach them somehow. That's kind of the challenge. And what I'm gonna do is make little loops and attach the little loops with just some thin half round wire. And that's gonna be my way of finishing off these wire ends here. So you can use round nose pliers or regular pliers just to bring this together and make a loop with both of these wire ends. And let's take a look at how it is from the front. Okay, so that looks good from the front. Maybe bring this just a little bit tighter together. Gonna make these little loops nice and small so they fit here on the back without being visible. So what I'm going to do here in the back is I'm just going to take a piece of half round wire and I'm going to slide it underneath. You can just kind of lift them up if you need to, both of these back wires, and just halfway through, and then just kind of work its way up here to the top. And now we have a wire on both sides to attach these loops, and I'm going to attach the loop to this wire here. If you need to lift up the wire, that's fine. You can do that. If you need to adjust your loop to make this go easier. But I'm basically just putting the wire through the loop and then under here. I got bent a little bit. There we go. So that I can make this attachment, this connection here. And then once you wrapped it once, then your loop is attached, and now you can wrap just around that single wire there. And I'm sorry if you hear some noises in the background. My dogs seem to be very active today and making lots of noises. So then you wrap just around this single wire, and then you're going to trim. Leave yourself that little wire end and tuck that away. And now you can press this wire down because I had to lift it up, so now I can press that down. So now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm just going to try to work that through the little loop and then under here like this. I'm going to pull that tight to attach, and now I'm just going to wrap around this single wire here. And now I'm going to trim that wire end and tuck that little end away and press down the wire, of course, so there's no gap. And you can press down on these as well. And that's it. Now, one additional step that I think looks kind of neat is separating these out a little bit. So I'm just kind of jamming my pliers in there and separating them out, but not too much, just like a little bit. I think that's a cool look, but it's up to you if you want to do that. So this is the finished piece as it hangs on the necklace. And what you could do, if your necklace is small enough, to work it through one of the other bales. So my little chain that was attached to this fell off, but that kind of makes it easy to work it through small places. So you could have it hang like this, a little lower. And here's what it looks like from the back. There's our little loops there. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.